Hey everyone, welcome to today's Explainer. We are diving straight into part 7 of a really fantastic 10-part advanced tutorial called Machine Learning for IT Professionals. This material comes to us from Virtualization Options LLC, a great research, education, and advisory organization based out of Colorado. Since this is an advanced level, we're skipping the basic intro stuff today. We're getting right into what it actually takes for us IT professionals to manage, monitor, and operationalize machine learning at scale in the real world.
Here is a quick look at our agenda for this explainer. We'll cover Section 1, the ML shift in IT, Section 2, algorithms you must know, Section 3, data, the new infrastructure, Section 4, feature engineering for signal, Section 5, inside model training, and finally, Section 6, real-world IT applications. Let's get to it.
Starting off with Section 1, the ML shift in IT, from rules to patterns.
Okay, so there is a massive, fundamental shift happening right now. Traditionally, as IT professionals, we've lived in a strict rules-based world, right? We write rigid scripts. If server load hits X, then do Y. It's explicit logic. But data-driven machine learning completely flips that script. Instead of hard-coding the rules, you feed the system data, and it actually learns the hidden patterns on its own to predict failures and automate decisions. It's a totally different operational mindset.
And honestly, you might not even realize it, but we are already running ML under the hood all over the place. Think about spam filters, intrusion detection, AI ops platforms, and cloud autoscaling. It's already deeply embedded in our day-to-day. But, and here's a huge reality check from our source text, these ML models are completely useless without us. Without IT professionals acting as the deployment, infrastructure, and reliability layer, it just doesn't work. We are literally the bridge that makes this technology viable.
Which brings us to Section 2, algorithms you must know, the core ML models.
First up, we've got supervised learning. This is where you train a model using explicitly labeled data to predict really clear outcomes. Imagine you're building a network attack detection system. You literally hand the system thousands of explicit examples saying, hey, this is an attack, and this is normal traffic. Because you're giving it the answer key up front, it's incredibly powerful for specific, outcome-driven tasks like log classification.
Next is unsupervised learning. This is the exact opposite. You're tossing a massive pile of raw, completely unlabeled data at the system and saying, figure out the hidden structure. This is absolute gold for anomaly detection. You might have zero idea what a brand new zero-day exploit looks like, but the model clusters your normal traffic so it can instantly flag when a specific packet stream is behaving totally out of bounds.
And then we have reinforcement learning. This is the engine behind self-healing systems. It learns optimal actions through a constant, dynamic loop of rewards and penalties. Every time it makes a good, efficient decision, it gets a digital high five. A bad, wasteful decision, it gets penalized. This is exactly the logic powering adaptive resource allocation across massive cloud environments right now.
Moving into Section 3, data, the new infrastructure. And the subtitle says it all, garbage in, garbage out.
So here is a critical mindset shift. You absolutely have to treat data preprocessing with the exact same rigor as your physical production infrastructure. There are 3 non-negotiable steps here. Step 1, data quality is infrastructure. If you've got missing values or inconsistent formats, your model is toast. Step 2 is normalization and encoding. This mathematically scales numbers and translates text categories so the model can actually digest them. And step 3 is executing precise dataset splits.
Usually, you're going to see a standard split that looks exactly like this. 70% of your data is used for actual learning, 15% is for validation and tuning, and a strictly isolated 15% is for your final test. You need that massive 70% chunk for the model to find the patterns. The 15% validation set, that's your sandbox for fine-tuning the dials. But that final 15% test set is your absolute baseline for truth. You don't touch it until the very end.
And we have to be incredibly strict about keeping that test data completely isolated. Why? Because data leakage is literally the silent killer of model accuracy. If your test data accidentally bleeds into your training data, your model is essentially cheating on the final exam. It's going to look like a total genius in the lab with 100% accuracy, but the second you deploy it into live production, it will fail spectacularly. Never ever let test data touch training data.
All right, on to Section 4, feature engineering for signal. Turning raw data into signal. This section is all about meticulously prepping your data to make your models incredibly fast and accurate at scale. It boils down to 3 techniques. Feature selection is simply stripping out the useless noise.
Feature creation is deriving brand new variables, like taking a raw log timestamp and mathematically calculating requests per second to expose patterns the model couldn't easily see. And dimensionality reduction? That's using techniques like PCA or TSNE to compress massive datasets, like network packet features, so your compute doesn't just completely grind to a halt.
Let's look at Section 5, Inside Model Training. What actually happens under the hood? The training loop is basically a relentless four-step cycle. The model predicts, it measures, it adjusts, and it repeats. It looks at the data, makes a guess, mathematically measures exactly how wrong that guess was, tweaks its internal wiring to do a tiny bit better next time, and repeats this entire process millions of times until that error rate gets squashed down to a minimum.
While this massive loop is spinning, you've got to understand the difference between parameters and hyperparameters. Parameters are learned automatically by the model dynamically during training. Think of them as the model's internal brain weights. Hyperparameters, on the other hand, are the manual configuration settings that you control, like the learning rate. You are essentially turning the dials on the control board to tell the brain how fast or how deep it's allowed to think.
And as you're turning those dials, you have to balance the model using regularization to avoid overfitting or underfitting. An overfit model just blindly memorizes the training data, so it completely fails in production when it sees something new. It memorized the practice test, but bombs the real exam. An underfit model didn't even bother studying. It failed to learn the patterns at all. Using tools like L1 or L2 regularization forces the model to actually generalize.
Finally, Section 6, Real-World IT Applications, Autonomous Ops in Action.
Let's put this into practice. Imagine deploying predictive maintenance by training models on server telemetry. You feed it CPU loads, disk I/O, temperature data, and suddenly you're getting a massive 24 to 72-hour lead time before a hardware failure actually happens. You're shifting your whole team from running around with their hair on fire during unexpected outages to just calmly scheduling a maintenance window days in advance. That is a real game changer.
Or think about AI ops. You can have natural language processing models instantly parsing millions of log lines to pinpoint root causes. That can reduce your mean time to recovery by up to 60%. When a system drops, instead of having 5 engineers frantically searching through logs for hours, the ML model just pops up and highlights the exact anomalous event that started the cascade.
But, and this is a massive but, the source text gives us a really high-stakes warning. A model deployed without monitoring is a model you've already lost control of. Standard software is static. ML models interact with a live, constantly shifting reality, which means their accuracy can and will drift. If you aren't actively monitoring an unsupervised model, it could eventually start making highly confident, fully automated, and completely disastrous decisions across your network.
So, as we wrap up part 7 of this tutorial, I'm going to leave you with this final thought. How exactly is your current IT infrastructure prepared to monitor these incredibly powerful, autonomous new systems once they go live? Remember, deploying the model is literally just day one. Maintaining its intelligence over time, well, that's the real job. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and definitely keep that question in mind as you map out the future of your IT operations.